Good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to New Filmmakers LA Virtual Film Festival. So excited to have you here. We are co-hosted by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences and powered by Seed and Spark. If you haven't met me before, my name is Danny DeLillo and I'm the board chair of New Filmmakers Los Angeles. For those of you who don't know New Filmmakers LA, we are a non-profit 501c3 organization that provide opportunities like this to the independent film community every single month. Yes, every month, we never stop, submissions just keep going. So I'd like to really start the session, as I have done for every virtual experience and every event that we've ever done before, is that we are a safe space for everyone. So regardless of your background or where you're from in the world, we welcome you. We welcome you to our filmmaking community, and we're so happy that you join us here today. In addition to having the Academy as our presenting partner in celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month, we'd also like to acknowledge and recognize our Academy delegation partners. There's so many amazing people, all of whom have brought 30 plus students and faculty to this weekend's festival lineups. Next generation of Hollywood is right here in this room. So as I read your school name, we encourage you to make your presence known by dropping your name and the school that you represent in the chat. Now, I know you're all young and savvy, so you can all do that pretty quick, or a lot quicker than I can. So here I go. So a big thank you to Art Center College of Design, ASU Film Spark, CSU Dominguez Hills, CSU Fullerton, CSU Long Beach, CSU Los Angeles, CSU Northridge, Chapman University, Dodge College, Emerson College LA, Hussein College LA, LA City College, Mount St. Antonio College, New York Film Academy, Occidental College, Los Angeles Film School, UCLA Latin American Institute, UCLA TFT, and USC School of Cinematic Arts. So once again, thank you to all the school students, faculty, alumni for joining to celebrate in this incredible Latinx voices and for participating in professional development opportunities that are taking place as part of the program. Now, we really want you, even in these crazy times, to walk away with new insight and relationships. That's what we're providing this for. So we really want to thank the leaders at your institutions for spearheading these delegations and being here. The fact that you're present here and learning on your weekends, I know you're going to strive and take over Hollywood in the best possible way for your dedication, already proven that here by being here today. I'd also like to give a shout out to all of the community collaborators that you see on the screen. So if you see all these community collaborators, we couldn't do it without all these wonderful people. So thank you for your incredible partnership. And of course, a big round of applause to our industry delegation members and moderators. Yes, I'm clapping by myself. Thank you very much. No, it's okay. I'm used to it. But thank you, Michael, for joining in. Also, without our amazing sponsors, New Filmmakers LA would not be possible. So I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge our amazing supporters. Again, that will appear as well. So I want to say a big thank you to our co-host, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, and especially to Bettina Fisher and Tracy Dillon. And I would also like to explain that this year obviously is virtual. So we definitely want to thank the Academy Theatre staff, and that we miss you and appreciate you, and hopefully we'll get to see you again soon. Our monthly sponsor for our film festival, the South Park Center and its parent company, LBA Realty. Executive Circle sponsors FilmLA and Warner Media 150. Producer Circle sponsors BBH and HBO. Director Circle sponsors Sony Pictures Entertainment, Wells Fargo, Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge, and Black Magic Design. Our debut sponsor, Creative Artists Agency, City National Bank, Los Feliz Neighborhood Council and POV. Foundation sponsors including the Los Angeles Department of Cultural Affairs, the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce Community Foundation, the LA County Department of Arts and Culture, the California Arts Council, Sundance Institute, and the Bank of California, and our media sponsor who I work with, Screen International. Now, if you haven't taken a chance to look at the rest of the program, please do, because we are going on all through the night to entertain you with our amazing filmmakers and talent, and hopefully a chance for you to interact in a way that we can't do normally. So please check it out at www.nfmla.org. Now, what's going to happen here is we've got a very special guest moderating with us today. I'm going to introduce you into a second. He is kindly going to be moderating our wonderful filmmakers that are here today. And then after that, there'll be an opportunity for an audience Q&A. Now, I know you're probably all experienced now at being Zoom stars, but make sure on your Zoom panel, on your Zoom little box, to reflect your name, your title, and institution or organization you're representing, if that is applicable to you. So following our moderation-led discussion, we'll turn it around to you. There'll be a 15-minute interactive audience Q&A for the filmmakers to speak to our audience guests. Now, how you do that, in order to ask a question during the Q&A, simply use the raise your hand feature, which I'm sure you're all familiar with now, or you can type in the chat, and basically you can type in the chat and just state your question there. What will happen is when you do ask your question and when you're up next, just make sure if you're on camera that your background and your microphone is all kind of set up and you're ready to do that as well. Now, we do understand that a film festival is a chance for people to interact, make new friends and new collaborators. So we know at this moment in time, we can't do that. So what we did create is Attendee Connect. Now, people have loved and experienced this. And what's going to happen is you're going to break out after the Q&As, you're going to break out into these breakout Zoom rooms, which are really, really cool if you've not experienced before. And what will happen, you'll be going to a room for 5 minutes and you'll get to meet and interact new different people. Now, it'll appear on our screen right now, but what we encourage you to do in these 5 minutes is have a little moment for each of you to state your name, what you do or what you aspire to do, one resource you can offer, and one resource you are seeking. Now, these instructions are being dropped into the chat now, hopefully. So please take a moment to copy them out if you don't have them handy, or we'll also remind you come in the end of the Q&A as well. So that will be a 5-minute section, and then we'll give you like a 6-second warning, and then you'll go into another breakout room. I imagine there'll be around about 3, but Andrew, who's here with us, will coordinate that at the very end as well. So really delighted to finally pass it over to our wonderful new part of our family from the LA Times, who is our moderator today. Please welcome Michael Ordonia.
Hi, everybody. Yay. Nice to virtually see most of you, or some of you. I'm going to try to keep these questions brief so we can turn it over to you guys to ask whatever's on your mind of these filmmakers. I wish there were a way that we could see you all applauding, but we have here a lot of key people behind this film. We have the director, Varda Barkar. Yay, Varda.
Thanks for being here, everybody.
We have the producer and co-writer, Kabir Segal. I hope I pronounced it correctly.
Yes, nice to be here. Thank you.
Great. Producer Doug Davis.
Pleasure to join you all.
We have the founder and conductor of the Afro-Latin Jazz Orchestra, Arturo O'Farrell, who you saw in tonight's show. Yay.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And we have Jorge Francisco Castillo, who, as you know, is the founder of the festival. Woo. So,
pleasure to be here.
Varda and everyone on the panel, congratulations on the film. It's just lovely. I'm delighted to be talking about it in front of other people tonight, because beyond the musicianship and the taste of Sonorocho, of a culture that I was not all that familiar with, not familiar with much at all. What I saw in your film were human connections, and I hope that's what people take away from it. So Jorge, I'd really like to start with you. The festival, you've been doing it at the border fence since 2008, yeah?
That's correct.
So in the years that you've been organizing it and you've seen these, you've had these performances on both sides of the fence, have you seen a change in the dynamic?
Well, absolutely. Well, it started a really small event, with local people from both sides of the border, Tijuana and San Diego, basically, and a little bit of people from the southern part of California. But then every year it kept growing and growing. Finally, it really established itself after probably the 5th year. It established itself as one of the most important fandangos in the entire scene of the fandangos in Mexico. So now we have really people waiting for this event every year, and people coming from all the way from Chicago, New York, Texas, Florida, in the US, and then from a lot of places in Mexico, not just Tijuana and San Diego. So it has really changed. And on the year 11 that we celebrated the Fandango, we had I can say the privilege and the miracle. I think these miracles happen when you pursue something really strong and you try to make this grow every year. Things happen, and that's how we met Arturo and Kabir, and they approached us to be part of this celebration. And they brought the orchestra, and they brought this whole team of people coming to join us and make this celebration a lot bigger and a total feast for everybody.
Well, this question is really for all of you, particularly for the people on our side of the fence. I have my own ideas about this, but to you, what's the significance of performing there now in this environment, fortified by the Afro Jazz Orchestra? But does it have special significance to you to be taking part in this festival at the border fence now?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I understood your question. When you say now, is it?
I think he's talking to Arturo actually, because he's
I'm sorry.
On the United States side. That's cool. That's cool. What? Go ahead, Arturo.
I think that I think that it's a significant moment when we were there, and even this year when it was virtual, because there are people who take cultural realities and appropriate them and make them their property. But I don't think Jorge has ever done that, and I think the Fandango should be a UNESCO heritage celebration. It is a lesson for every single human being on earth that physical geopolitical borders cannot contain culture and community and pueblo and life and light and love. So in a way, in a way, I feel like, yes, this was a very special event to be at, but it's an event as old as time. It's people denying hatred and denying division, and Jorge is enough of a genius to find a way to celebrate that in the presence, using the very elements of separation. So I'm very grateful for that, and I think that a magnificent part of my life has been being able to stand alongside my brother Jorge and celebrate our lives together.
Does anyone else have something to add to that? Kabir or Roberto or Doug?
Doug? Kabir?
I would say, yeah, I think it's really adding to what Arturo said about this being a UNESCO heritage focus. I mean, jazz has historically been a sort of a commons for freedom, democracy, people to come together and play this art form. And I just think of the United States State Department used to hire and send jazz musicians around the world to represent America. Think about Duke Ellington, Dave Brubeck, Dizzy Gillespie. And in the same way, Arturo and Jorge are kind of following in that tradition, being jazz ambassadors, being music ambassadors. And music always, this is Varda's line, it kind of challenges or reflects society, but also can show us what society can become. So in that way, I think this is a reflection. Every day you turn on the news and you can kind of be down and out about the relationship between the United States and Mexico. But now with this project, there's actually a different narrative, and you can like either see the news or make the news. And we're trying to just say, look, we want to create the headlines that say, at the U.S.-Mexico, there is a different conversation that can be had, and most of us get along, and there's families and there's communities. So I just want to hopefully that comes across in the film, that excellent film that Varda made, that this idea of maybe UNESCO, maybe when we have I don't want to talk politics, but maybe we can talk about making this a cultural attaché program in the coming years.
Can I add something to that? I'm sorry, Doug.
No, go ahead, because I was gonna.
I was just gonna say, Son Jarocho music is also a beautiful example of the intersectionality of culture. It's a music that is born fully vested in Veracruz and Mexico, but it's music that is also born in Spain and Africa and the Middle East. It's music that uses traditional African rhythms interpreted through jaranas and zapateados, but it uses Spanish song forms, the seguidillas, and the tradition of trovadores and improvising speech. In a way, Son Jarocho is a perfect example of how we all pertain to one another on a global level, and that culture is so fluid that the celebration of Son Jarocho is really a celebration of internationality and humanity. And that's important too, because it teaches us that all of us are part of a large family.
Without a doubt, I was going to add on that I think that when we started, there definitely was a feeling about countering the news and politics and the way Mexico is being portrayed. But we can say amongst all of us here as filmmakers that as we were making the film, we realized we were countering the narrative that filmmakers have had about Mexico, that it is more than just drugs, it is more than just gangs and violence and smuggling, and that it's not just the news that portrays Mexico negatively, it is some of the arts. And this film showed that all that we found positive about Mexico, from the music to the people to the culture to the spirit to, and it was important to show through film another side as well as to counter the narrative of the news.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with what everyone has said. And I want to just add that for me, in terms of the times, I felt particularly activated. And I think we all share this, all of us here, Jorge, Kabir, Doug, Arturo, and we feel like, you know, we have engaged, we can engage with the world, we can shift the narrative. And I think that we were all inspired and moved to do so, especially, you know, during this time, to counter, you know, very negative, you know, portrayal and narrative of, you know, the Latinx community and, you know, everyone who lives south of the border. So I think we were especially kind of lit up right now to come together and to make this film.
That tends to be a pretty effective remedy. People have a harder time hating you if they know you a little.
One thing I would like to add to that, if I can, it is that, you know, the word wall became very, very popular during this administration. And everybody was talking about the wall, the wall, the wall. And now that you see this film that is Fandango at the wall, it's going to bring a totally different picture of this wall. And it's going to bring a celebration. It's going to bring music. It's going to bring joy. It's going to bring friendship. It's going to bring love. So I think it's going to be a very, very authentic way and very elegant way to talk about this wall. I hope people that watch the film see it that way.
I wanted to shift gears to the music. Arturo got a head start on by talking about the elements that define Son Jarocho for him. I want to start with you, Jorge, of course, because you're so steeped in it. How would you define it to people who don't know it?
It's a very old it's campesino music or farmers music that has a lot of history to say. It's very organic, very simple at the same time, but very rich. And that's what brings people together, because people, once they hear it, they start feeling part of it, and it's very welcoming. Fandangos are very welcoming, always open. You never see a door in a Fandango. There's nobody asking you for a ticket or anything. There's always a celebration that welcomes everybody. So I think that's one of the unique elements of this music, that it's very welcoming and very rich and simple at the same time. And like Arturo said, it brings a lot of rhythms, a lot of African rhythms. It's a combination of three basic roots: the Arabic root, the Spanish root, and the African root. And you add to those three roots the Indian root from Mexico, from Latin America, and it makes it very rich. And I don't know if you want to add some more, Arturo, but that's how I see it.
I would add something that I've seen. I've traveled all over the world and performed with musicians, and the feeling I got sitting in with you and the musicians of Veracruz is the same feeling I got from sitting in with the Kuwaiti pearl diving musicians. It's the same feeling I got from sitting in with the rumberos in Cuba. And the language of this music truly is global. There are historical precedents for following the trail of music throughout the ancient world. But I think more than that, there's a feeling of community that we sometimes lose when we don't celebrate music. What we do is we turn on our iPods or our radios. But what Son Jarochero's doing, what people in Kuwait do, they stop what they're doing to sing and dance. They don't use it to accompany. It's not wallpaper. And I think that's so unbelievably important, to stop what you're doing and focus on singing and dancing. And I just wanted to add that.
And can I just add one other element of it that I think is really important? And that is that it has a very strong improvisational aspect to it, which means it's extremely fluid, and that even though, Jorge, correct me if I'm wrong, but some of the core lyrics are being passed down through generations, but once those first few lines are sung, it suddenly becomes whatever is important to speak about in the moment, and then it's literally the lyrics are being improvised on the spot, and it's very strict how these songs are sung. And so this means that people have worked together, they have practiced, they've put their DNA into the music. And it also means that their whole mind, I'm imagining the whole brain and the way that the brain is structured, starts shifting. Because you have to be so quick, and you have to really understand how words work and how they connect, and the meaning and innuendo. It's such an intelligent form. It requires such brilliance to be able to, anyone can come and join the Fandango, but when we're talking about the level that we're seeing in the film, it really does, so there's such depth to it. It's both, this humble music from the land, but then you have to be quite brilliant to really do it well. So it's this interesting,
And that's what makes it very welcoming, because I don't know, to extend a little bit more on what Varda just said, is that when we're at the Fandango, the improvisation part is very unique in this type of music, because even though we can play probably the same 10 or 12 pieces at every Fandango, the lyrics are never going to be the same. Every time you're at the Fandango, you don't know who's going to sing, and you don't know who's going to respond to you, and nobody knows what verses are going to be sang, because there's, for instance, I'll share with you one story that it's a anecdote. One time I was in Veracruz, and I was asking an old man to share with me some verses, because I wanted to learn more about this. So he was telling me, get a piece of paper and get a pencil, and I'll tell you some. So I was writing and writing and writing. After a couple of hours, I said, well, it looks like I have enough. And then he said, no, that's just for one song. I have a lot more for other songs. So that's how many verses you can have in one song, and people can come in, and everybody's welcome to sing. There's no assigned singer or lead singer. Everybody's welcome. And then you can start singing and somebody responds to you, and you can have 20 different or 100 different verses at each song. And if you play the same tune the next day, it's going to be totally different. The verses are going to be different. I have never heard the same song at a Fandango sang the same way with the same lyrics. It's the improvisational part that makes it really rich too.
Which makes it a great, something great to mix with jazz, of course.
Of course.
There are so many musical highlights in the film. There are some really lovely performances that you captured, Varda. But I just wanted to get your general reactions to what happened to the music when it melded with the orchestra. I personally like the highlighting of some of the other international elements mixing with it, and I wonder how it was for some of those players who've been doing this their whole lives to hear it in this totally different way, and how some of you folks involved in making the film felt about hearing that great mixing of the sounds.
I'll start, but I'll be very brief and not let everybody else here speak to that. It was very exciting, actually, for them to play with the orchestra and to hear it orchestrated. This is the first time that this music has been orchestrated. And, they, confided in me, like they were just thrilled. They were in heaven. Being on that stage with the orchestra was a spectacular, life experience. And you can see in their performances, you feel that energy. And I think it was true for the orchestra. Arturo, do you want to take that?
Sure. I mean, it's actually, I think we're coming from two different directions to the same central conclusion. Because the difference between a big band and a son jarocho experience is that you have 18 people who need a little bit more instruction in what to do, because they all have to agree on, and it's different. Son jarocho musicians are by nature improvisatory musicians, as are jazz musicians, but there's a lot more organizational prowess there. The beautiful thing is when the musicians in the Afro-Latin Jazz Orchestra lose themselves in not having to read, not having to count, not having to look at notes. And that same feeling of excitement, I think, that the son jarocho musicians get from having this big experience is kind of a flip side of musicians who spend whatever time they've spent being brainwashed in conservatory and realizing that we both want the same thing. The musicians from the conservatory world and the musicians from the soulful world. We all want to be pueblo. We all want to touch each other and be relevant to each other. And when that happens, it is the perfect meeting place of Europe, Africa, Latin America, the New World. It is, because all those elements, and that's what makes. I was thinking about something you said, Jorge. There's a famous story that Vladimir Horowitz invited Art Tatum. I don't know if you guys know who this is. Vladimir Horowitz is a famous classical pianist, and he invited Art Tatum to his apartment in Manhattan to meet him and to play for him. And he sat down and he played his arrangement. By the way, Vladimir Horowitz was an incredible virtuoso. He played this incredible arrangement of T for Two, and it was like amazing, with notes flying off the piano. And then he said, "Mr. Tatum, would you come and play for me?" And Art Tatum played and played and played and played and played. and he says, "That's incredible. How did you do that?" He said, "I don't know. I just keep making it up." I just keep making it up.
That's a wonderful story.
I am kind of running out of time here to ask you guys just another question, or maybe two, before we turn it over to everyone else. But I want to, Varda, when you were talking about the joy that they were experiencing in that moment, that's one of the things that I liked most about your film, that you captured some really lovely moments. I think of, I'm going to pronounce his name wrong. Is it Taco or is it Tacho? Tacho and his wife in Central Park, and really he could be the star of his own movie because that guy is really super charming.
He's amazing.
So I know full well this is like asking you to choose among your children, and I'm going to ask everybody else to do it too. But what was a moment or a couple moments that you were so happy you captured, that you thought, oh my God, I hope we got that. That's got to be in the movie. And for everyone else too, after Barda has her say about it.
Well, I'll be completely honest. Every single moment was gold. I mean, wherever we went, whatever we did was gold. In the car, in that little white car, when they were chatting, it was gold. When we went to Marta's, family, compound, and she's dancing and she's on her little boat in the river, and Andres Vega, Arturo on the porch, improvising with them, it was gold. When we went to Tacha and Wendy's house, and they had their son Miguel there, and they all played on their porch in the jungle, it was gold. When we went to Ramon's place and the houses had eyes, and they were so colorful. It was, when we went to Fernando and he's reciting this poetry, and he's on the train tracks, and just him, it was gold. When we arrived at Patricio's, and Arturo pulled out that red piano, it was gold. When we went to the border, it was gold. When we went to the theater in New York City and they all performed together, it was gold. It was like the whole experience was a transformative experience, and there was something larger that was moving it through, and every part of it had meaning, and every part of it was, there were challenges that we would present along the way, and I don't want to pretend that is what filmmaking is, but the heart of it was this just beautiful unfolding that you experienced watching the film. That is what it was.
Yeah, I'll weigh in there on some of the challenges. They're right, there was a lot of gold, but as a music producer and a film producer, there was a moment at the Border Wall concert, let's just say there were some issues with technology and working microphones, and so there's this part at the concert, it's I guess in the credit sequence, where I kind of knew a lot of the mics weren't working because we were having like electrical issues and everything, and Regina Carter has this solo, and it was really quiet. It was like not amplified, and like we could all hear it. We had to like listen, and it was really faint, but it was also majestic. And like I remember looking at Arturo, and like I couldn't really look up because I was getting emotional. The backdrop of the Pacific Ocean and everything. And I was just like hoping. I said to our sound crew, I was like, "You got that right?" Like, because I think that was gold. And they were like, "Yeah, I think so." I was like, "You need to check it." So the first thing we did, I had the sound guys like, "Please make sure you have that moment of Regina Carter solo at the Border Wall, because it's a beautiful musical moment just to be a part of." And it was kind of a pinch me moment. I was kind of soaking it in. I was like observing myself soaking in, if that makes any sense, during this kind of life moment.
Did you want to add something?
No. I can pass the baton to Doug if you like. Any moment that stood out to you?
For me, it was just the wonder in the eyes of the San Jarocho in New York City, and seeing the humble people from Mexico when they came to Symphony Space and that incredible concert. There's only so much you can show in the film, but that was a near 4-hour evening and a celebration of music from around the world. And that just, we were able to have family members there to participate, which you can sort of spot the back of their heads in the edit of the film. But I think that moment for me was the most heartwarming.
Jorge, don't say it was your part.
No, I feel like Warda, where there's so many moments that I like, and the being able to see how this whole movie travels and shares the human part of the music, and the families participating, and then traveling from Veracruz through the border and have that fabulous concert with the Afro-Latin jazz in the middle of the day for the whole community. And you could see the whole community with tears in their eyes and saying, oh, wow, I can't believe this is happening. And then going to New York. And then we're always very emotional, but we were very excited to be there too. So it was, I feel that there were various moments where I feel very touched by this.
Maestro?
Yeah, I have to say some of the magic moments were caught on film, but I think not necessarily scripted, and they had to do with our time in Veracruz. And Veracruz is a very strange and mystical place. We speak about it in the movie. We speak about some creatures called chaneques, and chaneques are there and they're hidden. I've never seen one, but apparently they surround our every move. But especially in Veracruz, there's such I know I talk about this movie. Definitely, they're in the tortillas, the handmade tortillas that are the finest tortillas in the history of mankind. They're there in the notes. They're there in the notes of El Señor Don Vega. They're there in the camaraderie that we felt just meeting people on the path, on the path that we were on, just meeting people in the streets, talking to people. That stuff is more precious to me than anything I can imagine.
Okay, I can see that people are raising their hands, so I'm just going to ask one last question. And Jorge, it's for you again. You've been doing this festival since 2008, and you've been just marinating in this music forever. You've seen the reactions of these people you've known for so long to what was happening to this, storied orchestra from New York City, coming to play with them, and then them going to New York City. So the first time that you saw this film on screen, what was your reaction? How did you feel?
I'm glad you were asking that question, because I was just going to add to what Arturo said and everybody has said, because I wanted to take my hat off to Varda and to all the filmmakers. I don't know how they do that, because I think Varda had like over almost 300 minutes of footage, or maybe more. And then hours, not minutes, hours of footage. And then how to reduce this to 90 minutes. It's incredible. So I think it was incredible to see all these films coming together and the story being told the way she told it. It's beautiful. It was the first time I saw it. I think it was sent to me by her or from Kabir, I can't remember, and it was too long, and we had to cut like 15 or 20 minutes, and I was like, no, please don't cut anything. Everything's beautiful. I don't want to cut anything, and it was so beautiful. And even though, I mean, we knew we were missing some things that we saw when they were filming, but it was incredible. It was incredible. It was very touchy. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And the first time I saw it without the color and without the equalization on the sound. And it was already beautiful. And I was like, wow, I live it like that, and I'd still be happy.
Okay, great. I want to thank you all for participating in this part of the Q&A, and turn it over to the ravenous wolves.
Thanks, Michael. So we're going to start with the Q&A. Just a couple reminders. One, there's a lot of questions, so please, one question each. Let's limit to one question each. And two, for just everyone's sake, do not pitch a movie idea or a documentary, just for everyone's sake. Thank you. So first up is Ahmed. Ahmed from New York Film Academy. I'm going to ask to unmute you.
it was a wonderful film. It just reminds me of Neil Diamond's, Real Engine, where he takes a journey from Canada to the parts of US reservations. I'm gonna like quote one dialogue from the film. Growing up on cowboys and Indians, we never realized that we were the Indians. And your movie has like a similar, argument. Despite the divide, our love is alive, our music is alive, our art is still alive. It can't keep us apart. And I just wanted to ask you, like Jorge even answered some of it, that how did you manage the, like which parts were necessary for your argument, and how did you manage the hate? Like not even once during the movie I saw you like criticize the, like the Hollywood or anybody else who misrepresent the people of Mexico.
Mm. Well, one thing I really, from a creative perspective, I really wanted to bring the audience with us on the journey. And so I didn't want to, actually the most challenging part of the film was not to have to explain anything. But yet we were introducing so many new things. No one knows much about Sonorocho. The festival isn't, world known. We have to explain, and we have to explain who the characters are. So there's a lot of new things that we want to introduce, but I didn't want to do it by explaining anything. I didn't want to have a word of explanation, if at all possible, in the film, because I wanted you, to feel like you were there and that you were with us and you were having the experience and you were kind of learning and figuring it out as you went. So that was kind of one of the guiding forces as to what to include. And then the other thing is, we really want to speak, we knew from the start, and the spirit of Fandango Fronterizo is to speak into possibility. It's the alchemy, of the art, and the intention to transform something. So we knew that, and I knew that I wanted the audience at the end to feel full of possibility and to feel uplifted and to feel like, they have agency, like the people in the film do, and like we all do as artists. So those are the things we knew. And, Kabir, can you speak to it a little bit as well? Because we talked about that originally.
About the politics?
How to do that where we're not actually making anyone wrong or naming any names.
Well, I think that's an important thing. Is we want to dramatize what's happening, but you also want to leave it to the audience to work out their interpretation. Once you start telling people how to vote or what they should think about an issue, it turns a little bit more into propaganda a little bit, which filmmakers can do that, and they have. But we wanted the art to stand on its own, and I think there was really a thought of should we be putting in shots of the president or whatever. But that's sort of the elephant in the room. Everyone kind of knows that, and we didn't want to. This may be a loaded word. We didn't want to sort of degrade the film because we wanted it to be. I mean, you can get that everywhere else. You can experience that. We wanted this to be alegria. We wanted this to be joy, because to be honest, like when we were all there together, we weren't talking about the administration. We were just like hanging out and having fun, and we're like, and in some ways, there's this mythological creature that comes from the idea of the trickster. You see that in African traditions. It's Krishna taking the butter in Hindu tradition. In this way, Jorge is a trickster. And what I mean by that is he's taken this wall and he's kind of like, you know what? You can take that wall and we're going to throw a giant party here. And he's recast it. And what is it? He's redefined the wall, right? And so he's playing he's the trickster. And I mean that in a mythological way, that you can be subversive in a way by not even naming what is so apparent. So that was kind of a very conscious decision.
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing that's well said, and it's true. Jorge's intention is another guide, in the making of the film. Like, how do we express that in the film, as a film? But then the other thing is, I've lost my thought. I lost it.
Well, I would just add, though, that any reference to the current political climate would also date the film. It would. The story of the San Jarocho certainly is much broader, deeper, longer. It's a century, maybe multi-century long tradition. And so it's much broader than the current president, the current climate. And I think the movie itself will stand the test of time better by not having the mention in there.
That's true. That's a good point. And the other thing I was going to say is that in the spirit of San Horatio, you know, when they hold their fandangos, they talk about, and Patricia talks about this, about claiming his right, you know, their right to happiness. You know, he talks about, you know, the instruments being like as a weapon, but a weapon in, you know, in the sense of putting, you know, kind of the dark forces and the oppressive forces that are trying to diminish the quality of life and diminish their ability to be happy, and using that weapon to reclaim their right to happiness. So the film also needed to embody that spirit rather than, you know, the other.
Right. Next up, we have Juliana from Cal State Long Beach. I'm going to ask to unmute you.
Hello, everybody. I just want to say it's such an amazing film. I had such a connection with it. Myself, I was born and raised in Mexico City for 19 years, and I've been dancing folklorico dance since I was 4 years old. So Veracruz is like my favorite state ever. I've danced so jarocha line, guapangos, I've danced Afro dance and everything. So I'm very familiar with this, and I cry a lot during the film. And also I'm a documentarian. That's what I'm here in the United States. So such a great connection. So my question here is, how did you go about researching? I know Jorge was the main resource for you guys to get like a connection, because like Doc said, it's such like a broader like subject, but I know in documentary is very important to like go with the research. So I would like to know, how was your research process, and if you have any advice of how to do it when it comes to cultural things.
Well, there's different types of documentaries. You know, there is no documentary. Every single documentary is unique, and it's becoming more and more so in how they're expressed and what you're expressing. And in this case, this was a story of discovery. This was not a story where we only had like a couple of weeks before we started shooting. So this was not a case of, yeah, I did some research. You know, I got to speak with Jorge, and, you know, I spoke with Arturo and Kabir, and, you know, there was some insights, but really it was going there and just literally you're learning and seeing the things as they're really being learned and seen by the filmmakers. So I literally learned about it through the process of making the film. I had some ideas, you know, I mean, but I didn't, it was really a process of discovery. That's what the film was. It was learning about something. And that, you know, maybe there's some kind of an advantage to that I am, you know, new to it, and I got to see it in a different way, maybe, I don't know, but it seems to be, other projects I've done deep research and really known ahead. But for me, I really want to find something new. I want to discover something when I'm making a film, rather than tell something about what I already know. But, you know, there's a lot of, with the internet, there's so many ways of researching things. So, but in this case, in this film, it was about discovery, actually.
That's amazing.
Can I add something to that? Because I think I remember very clearly being an undergraduate and having my American history professor tell me, history is written by the winners. Research is written, the facts are told by people who have jobs and people who are employed in universities, and information that you can find in a book or on YouTube has to go through a certain accreditation process, if you will. But being in the center of a learning and growing experience, I think Varda is completely correct. I think that you can read about this history or that history, but to sit alongside people that are playing this music, you're going to learn a lot more about what this music is, how it's put together, and the history of it. And I think that's something that the film really does well. You almost feel like you grow up in that tradition by watching this film.
Because I felt connected like I have never felt. So it was amazing.
Wow, that's great to hear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Next up, we have Jessica. And so Jessica is an intern at New Filmmakers LA. Jessica, I'm going to ask to unmute you.
Hi there. I really loved the film. So thank you guys all for being here. So one thing that you guys touched on, which I found really interesting, was this duality whereby the film is really kind of like about this timeless story about people coming together in music and tradition, but at the same time, I think it's made like particularly significant and like heavy almost by like the current political climate and situation. And so I was just kind of wondering, like in your own words, if you were conscious of that duality and like if you tried to kind of walk that border, I guess, between those two concepts, between like the current and like the timeless, while you were going about making the film.
You can't really escape. Sorry, I was gonna say you can't really escape the every time you see the 3 and 4 hour, 5 hour waits at the Tijuana San Diego border. You can't really escape the political realities, and not even political. They're just survival realities. You live with the knowledge that this kind of stuff, this kind of separation and geopolitical separation will always be there. You know what I'm saying? It'll always be there. It's been there since the beginning of time. It'll be there long after this movie has made its huge impact on our hearts. So, to some level, you don't mitigate those waters. You know what I'm saying? You don't mitigate them. You can't account for them. You can't really understand them. And our job, at least I felt my job, was to just experience this beautiful thing that happens, that is irrespective of those things. It doesn't negate, by the way, it doesn't negate the ridiculous situation we're in. It's just that there's no mitigation, there's no understanding of it, there's no real rationale for it. So as long as you know that, it's easier to deal with the fact that you're doing your part to connect the two worlds.
Yeah, there's one other thing I would like to add to that. And Arturo, you and I spoke about this once before, but it's true. We are, profoundly aware now in the United States of the disparities and the mistreatment of peoples, the racism, the biases, on and on and on. These things have been going on since the day I was born all over the planet. And, they've been happening, it's just right out in the foreground now. We can see it. We're not pretending like it's not happening, and now we have to contend with it. And the one place where we have the most power is in our minds. How do we look at this? How do we interact with this? How do we choose? We have a choice how to think about it, how to engage with it, to not get pulled into, mirroring behaviors that we don't agree with and that are destructive to our culture. So in the making of the film, it's like we're all choosing to focus our attention on building this way of being and seeing and then sharing it with the world, in the face of the hardships, and the struggle. We're not going to get drowned by it. We're not going to let that happen. We're going to rise up, we're going to get whatever, pieces of driftwood we have. We're going to build a boat. We're going to get in that boat, and we're going to rescue everyone.
Love it. I just wanted to mention there have been a couple requests in the chat for the Fandango at the Wall team to maybe put any social media handles you want to share into the chat. I think a lot of people here would like to connect with you. Getting some demonstrative nods. So next up is Livia from New York Film Academy. I'm going to ask you to unmute, or I'm going to unmute you, Livia, right now.
Hello. First of all, I'd like to thank you all so much for this film. It filled my heart with joy. It's a beautiful film. It was amazing to think of the world as a huge one only Fandango, as it said in the end. So thank you so much. I'm a documentary student, and I was gonna ask Vara about how much of the film was pre-scripted, but by the answers you've already gave us, I can imagine that, like you said, you had like only a couple of weeks before we start shooting. So you probably didn't pre-script it like at all. So I wanted to ask you, how is your process with it? Like when you go shoot a documentary, like, and you're learning as you're making, like the story is coming to you as you're making it. And because it's something that I do like a lot, this approach to documentary. So how do you work with it? Like when you have all the image, like the 300 hours you had at the end, how do you come to script it and you know, just how do you work with it? I'd like to know.
Okay, thank you. That's a really great question. And thank you for your kind words about the film. I know we all, you know, feel good to hear your response and everyone, so thank you. Well, I had the good fortune of being a script supervisor for many years. And what a script supervisor does is work very closely with the director to figure out exactly what you need to have a film work. You know, so you're making sure as it's going, you're getting the right shots, you know, you're getting the right turning points, like everything that needs to happen. So my mind is already trained, and you know, as I'm shooting, I'm thinking about what I'm going to need, what kind of elements, what kind of shots, what kind of, you know, when doing the interviews, what I know we need to cover to help the audience understand. So I'm constructing it, you know, in my mind as we're going. It's not that I know how the edit's gonna be, but I do know there's certain building blocks that we absolutely need to have. And then I also know we need big shots and we need small shots. You know, we need movement. We need, you know I don't want to sit on talking heads, so I'm going to avoid that. I know I want to, you know, have intimacy, and I want to, you know, the audience to feel and really empathize with the characters. So I know I need, you know, certain things. So you're thinking all along about the elements. You don't know, you know, in kind of in a structural sense. But then when you're there, you know, you're discovering them. It's like a treasure hunt, you know. And, you know, and then you suddenly see it and, you know, that's it. But you go really fast. There's not and with a documentary, you step in and you're on. Like there's no hesitation because it's all happening in real time. And, you know, in this case, we're, you know, traveling through Veracruz. We've got 6 hours of driving to do. You know, we've got drug cartels we have to evade. Remember Jorge and Kabir and Arturo? You know, there's like pressure. There's also, you know, we've got to get to the certain time. You know, we've got a plane they're going to have to catch. Like this, so you just have to be like right present. You have to be completely present. That's what I love about it. I really love that. There's nothing else that exists but the moment when you're doing it, and it's just a thrill. It's a total thrill, and so that's it. You know, and then in the edit, you go into shock, you cry. Pull your hair out, you know, you think you're never going to be able to do it. You call Kabir and you're crying.
Just to add to that, I just read a comment on the chat that said that I forgot the name of the person, but it said I just watched the film and I wish it could be longer. So go ahead and share the footage that you have because. They thought it was too short. So
you're right.
and one more comment to I was trying to add that comment to Jessica's question about the duality of the border. And for me, that I have lived at the border pretty much all my life, and you're used to this duality of having two governments, two languages, two currencies. Everything's double. Every time you're dealing with something, you have to think twice or double, you know, because there's always this duality or symbiosis at the border. But it's amazing how when you're at the Fandango and you have this fans that you deal with it every day, it disappears. It's magical. When you're having the music, the celebration, you start first, you can't touch your friends on the other side as you saw on the film. You see them, and then the music goes on, music crosses the fans, nothing stops it, and then you cry, you smile, and after a few minutes or maybe an hour or 2 or 3 songs, then you forget about the fans. there's no more fence. You just keep going and going and going, and it just becomes another celebration. No fences. So that's the most beautiful moment of the Fandango, and about this duality when you can make it disappear.
Somebody in the chat wrote "Hi Pinky," and not everybody might know about that. But one of the things that happened is that periodically the mesh at the border is so fine that you can barely put the tip of your finger through the mesh. But periodically, instead of giving each other a high five, we gave each other a high pinky. So that kind of became our international sign of the Fandango. We just that's just it. That's all we do. So everybody gives each other the high sign.
Awesome. So next up, we have Vincent from Cal State Long Beach, who actually left the high pinky comment. So Vincent, I'm going to ask to unmute you.
Yeah, hello everybody. I really love that moment. It made me laugh. But I just wanted to thank you guys for creating such a beautiful film. For me, it was just so powerful because my abuelito used to share stories of his childhood growing up in Veracruz and Mexico City, and I was able to kind of experience and see some of that through your film due to how authentic and raw it felt. And so I guess my question would be, sorry about my dogs. I guess my question would be primarily towards Varda. I wanted to ask, like, as a director, how do you maintain that authenticity, especially when you have a camera crew with you? I feel like that would very much shake people up. And how do you like make sure that everybody's still kind of present in the moment?
Well, I mean, I think just in life, well, first of all, let me just say that I feel sorry for my husband because I'm like phobic when it comes to anything artificial or like that feels stilted or like overly produced or whatever. I mean, I literally, start shaking and, so I can't help but, have my work, have that, that be that way. Otherwise I can't live with it. So it's just my aesthetic, there's nothing wrong with slick stuff. It's just not the way that I see the world or feel the world. But in regards to how we made everyone feel comfortable, I think you serve as an example. You come in with the best of intentions. You come in open. You come in, openly not knowing. You're not the know-it-all. You come in and, just kind of come in vulnerable and open in the same way you would like everyone involved to be. And people sense it. I think that there's a lot of communication that happens, it's nonverbal, and that's we sense stuff, we feel stuff, and so you don't have to say much or do much. I mean, I think, I'm not saying sometimes I'm not overbearing or I come in, strong, right, Jorge? Sometimes I'll, at the beginning, especially, kind of felt that way. Mm-hmm. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But then once you kind of got to know me, it was okay, because it was like, oh, that's how she is. But, her intentions are good. She's well-meaning, and, she just wants it to be really good. Right? Totally.
It was very, well, it's like especially, I think it happens to all of us when you start working with somebody for the first time and you don't know exactly what you're getting into. In this case, we were getting into this documentary, and we just started working, and I didn't have an idea of what was going to happen altogether. It was my first experience to participate in a documentary this long, and it was amazing. It was too many things were happening, and when Varda will come to us and will start asking us to do things a little different and trying to get to the point where she wanted us to be was difficult sometimes, but then you get to know her and then you start understanding more and more. The more you work with her, it's the better and easier too.
Can I add something to that? Because I think it's really important. I think there's something artificial about it's not artificial. It's just there's no way that you can stick a camera in someone's face and expect it not not artificial, but there's things those are just realities. And I think the way Barda and her crew behaved was exemplary. Those things are just by nature very, very strange. But Matt Porwall and Varda and the people that she assembled were so gentle and so not they like I mean I literally felt when I was in front of that camera that they were not there. And that's I mean I've done a lot of film work and that's the first time I ever felt that. And I think that as young filmmakers you can choose to kind of know that there's a way to lessen that. I mean you'll have to ask master filmmaker Varda Barkar how she does it, but there's a way to have that, which is by nature in reality a very strange and awkward situation, be less intrusive. And I think a lot of it has to do not just with Varda, but of course with Matt, who just kind of, Matt, you can go into this a little more than I can, Varda, but Matt, it felt like he was a musician at times. Matt would just float around the musicians like he was playing with us. And he would hold his camera in a way, and I was scared shitless that he was going to fall backwards. I got to tell you, but he was just I mean this man was just like he was just entering into the music as if he were a musician, and I think that's something really really to note and to be grateful for.
Yeah, that was definitely he was part of the music. That was the idea. The camera was moved in the sound waves with the music.
Gotcha. Well, you guys got to give us a crash course sometime.
Sure.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Awesome. And we have time for only one more question, and that's going to Martin from Cal State Long Beach. So Martin, let's make it good. Went on to you right now.
Hi, everybody. So I just want to congratulate you on directing such a vibrant film. I really enjoyed it, genuinely. So my question is, so what made you want to embark on this specific subject of Afro Latin jazz in this specific event?
Doug.
That's a good question for Arturo.
Thinking maybe let's start with
Kabir.
Let's start with Doug in this one.
What made me want to be involved?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was brought in when they were recording the original album Fandango at the Wall. Arturo was, and Varda was there. We were introduced, and the film was I think just beginning as from idea to execution. And I come from the music business. I've been in it professionally over 20 years, and there was this energy, there was a spirit in the recording studio. It was 2018, and it was like nothing I had ever felt. The goodwill, the positivity, and I got wrapped up and carried away from that moment onward. The politics was easy for me. I'm a big old liberal, you know. They had me at hello, they would say, with regard to the border wall and celebrating U.S.-Mexico relations. But it was really just the spirit of these incredible creators. And just while I have the mic, can you guys all see how low key Arturo has all those Grammys lined up over his shoulder? Wow. So that was it for me.
Yeah, I was going to say that I've worked with Kabir. At least 5 of those are his. And we've Kabir has always, I've come to him with incredibly bizarre ideas. We did a record called The Offense of the Drum, and every time I come to Kabir with a crazy idea, and this is how it was born. I read about Jorge's brilliance and his magic. Board member gave me an article, and Kabir and I sat down in Las Vegas, and I said, listen, look at this. Isn't this cool? And Kabir was there. He said, yeah, this is really cool. And he kind of looked at me and said, this is our next project, because that's just who he is. And but diving into this, I want to just say that it just was that simple. Think of one idea, love it, water it, grow it, and you don't know where it's going to go. You have no idea where it's going to go. You know, and so that I am very grateful to Doug and Varda and Kabir and Jorge, because it was just a simple thought that germinated into this beautiful thing.
You know, there's if I can add a little bit more to this, from the beginning of this project in 2008, it's been challenge after challenge. Every year something new happens. And even from the very beginning, the first time I had this thought of doing this Fandango, my colleagues at the border, they said, no, forget it. It's crazy. Nobody's gonna go. You're not gonna get the permits. It's impossible. So I said, well, let's give it a try. And I finally pushed it, and it happened. And it's always been like that. And I feel so happy that I had somebody like Kabir that has this energy. And I think we're the same way. Let's go, let's do it. And you need to meet Kabir to understand that. He's a ready to go guy, and he doesn't believe in anything can stop him. So I think I'm so glad that this project ended up in his hands, because that's how it's really becoming reality. Thank you, Kabir, again. Always thank you.
Thank you, my brother. Yeah, this project may seem big because we're at the tail end of it, but it just started, you know, with a dinner conversation. And to quote my friend Doug, you can get a lot done if you just solve one thing at a time, and just keep your eye on the larger picture, and like you just get down the field, and all of a sudden you're at the 20-yard line here, and then with HBO we score the touchdown and so it's just execute. You know, so many people, well, I don't know, in my experience, just execute. You're gonna say something, just do it, and like follow up, and just don't let it sit. And my dad always has this saying, if there was one mantra, and Arturo knows this, there's one thing my dad always used to say to me: close the loop, finish, close the loop. Don't just get the job done. Tell everyone who needs to know about the job that it's done, so everyone has situational awareness. And so if you're constantly just closing the loop with people, you create this like gravity on a project, and things just you just sort of sweep people up, and next thing you know, you're at NewFilmmakers LA talking to some incredible, brilliant minds, and hopefully the next amazing project is going to come, maybe shaped by one of these conversations here. So I'm so excited to see see all your brilliant faces, and see the great work that you have ahead of you, and that maybe you're already working on right now.
Thank you all for.
Can I just my final?
Yes,
we went around, and I got.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Mine's going to be short. You know, the other thing is that ideas come to you, you know, and in this case, we can go out and search for things, but ultimately they come to you. And in this case, an idea came to Jorge, and then that idea came to Arturo, and then that idea came to Kabir, and then that idea came to me. So there's a lot of power there in those ideas. They want you. You know when you're going to do it, when that idea will not let you go. It's like you have to do it. It's not that, oh, this is kind of interesting. No, it's like, I have to do this. Nothing is going to stop me from doing this. And I will do anything to do it and to complete it. So that's how it works. It's something that you absolutely just have to do because you feel it's so important. And you want to create something, you know, incredible and beautiful and great. Okay.
I know, I love that you said that, Varda, because I have a pleasure of having a wonderful, you know, relationship with my friend Varda. And I remember the times when you were going down to the wall and you're like, I'm going, I have to go. And you were going, you were off, and you did it and you made it happen. And it went from that dinner party to this experience now. And it's fantastic. And I want to thank all of you with everybody at Fandango at the Wall. You're all so wonderful and inspiring. If there's anyone for the next generation of filmmakers to see this award-winning team right here to inspire you, this is it. So I hope that you've all been very inspired by this. We are a bit over, actually, at the moment. We're gonna have to cut our breakout rooms a bit shorter. Ovada, you want to?
One more thing, Danny. It's really, really important for the film.
Yes.
And I forgot to say this. It's very important. If you like the film, please, please go to IMDb and rate it. And it's so important for the success of the film, because people will go there and they'll go, oh, it's only got this many stars, and they won't see it. But if it's got a lot of stars, they're going to go see it. So go ahead and go to IMDb and give it as many stars as you possibly can, and write a little something about it, you know, also if you're willing. Thank you. Sorry, Dan.
No, it's okay, no problem.
Amazing.
To add to that, so thank you all very, very much. Thank you to all the amazing students and faculty and staff that have made this happen. Thank you to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences and NewFilmmakers LA staff and interns and Seed and Spark for powering this incredible virtual experience today. And so amazingly inspiring. We want to continue that. We encourage, you know, the filmmakers to stay, but feel free to break out of the breakout rooms. I know you've been talking for the last hour. I also want to say a really big thank you to Michael from the LA Times. You gave us such a wonderful moderation and great interview. So thank you very much, Michael. We appreciate you very much. Thank you.